Welcome everybody to round number 7, which is the French Grand Prix, and today we've got a lot of news to digress as we go even further into this story about this mystery agent that's literally been causing chaos across the entire paddock. First things first, Rhys has continued to remain quiet on the person that knows about this agent. If you missed last episode, we found out that Rhys actually was told by someone to stay away from the specific agent because, well, we don't know why. He was just told to stay away from the agent. We tried to get contact with Rhys and see if we could find out who said no, but Rhys remained quiet on the subject. Whether that's because he's been told not to say anything, whether that's because the person who told him, about it in the first place has said don't say anything, keep it quiet for a second. It's really starting to confuse everybody. And the closest contacts to Rhys are obviously Tom and Sam. Sam being a close friend and Tom being his cousin. They also refuse to comment on the situation, saying that once again, this situation doesn't fully delve between them. They need to focus on their races and they're not too bothered about the entire situation. So we're not really getting any further to solving this mystery about who this agent is in the first place, and it's really costing some problems. And it's Max Verstappen that's now asked for those who knew about this agent to come forward. Obviously, Verstappen has found out that Rhys was told to stay away from the agent in the first place. Now Max Verstappen is saying, look, whoever knows who this agent is, come forward, help us, we can sort this out and try and make things right. And then finally, Red Bull have now opened contract negotiations with Tom for next season. Tom is currently the World Drivers' Championship leader ahead of Charles Leclerc by just 2 points in the championship. However, Red Bull's Christian Horner says that he's been so far massively impressed with Tom's race performances and really wants to see him strive to the World Championship and wants to see him come even further with Red Bull and hoping that he can join on a long-term deal. But we'll have to wait and see what Tom wants to do about that. Now heading into the race news then, first of all, Tom is happy with the balance of his car, but admits that there is a big power issue. Overall, we saw Red Bull with clearly the fastest cars in the first sector and competitive in this final sector. However, the middle sector, which contains of 2 ginormously long straights, really put Red Bull pretty much down at the bottom of the speed trap, and it showed that that Aston Martin engine is really not working and they really need some upgrades on that car. Despite this though, they might just be in with a spot of luck because both Mercedes and McLaren were concerned with their race pace. In the qualifying simulation runs, Mercedes were fine. They didn't seem to have that much of a problem. In race trim though, they seemed to be lacking with tyre wear. McLaren though, just had absolutely nothing to go by. They just were literally nowhere in terms of performance. Speaking of performance, McLaren, remember, were meant to have a major upgrade come to the French Grand Prix to catapult them up the order and potentially become the fastest car on the grid. Well, that has been delayed due to PU issues that they found, which they need to rectify. They're hoping to get this on the car for the next race at the Monaco Grand Prix. Whether it takes an effect or not is to be seen, but they say the race after Monaco then will really see the true effect of this new McLaren upgrade. But without further ado, guys, let's get straight into it. It's time for qualifying and the race for the French Grand Prix. Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Fox98 here, and welcome back to another episode of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. Today we are here for the French Grand Prix. I believe this is round number 7, if I'm correct. However, a lot of the times I'm wrong, so take that into consideration. But we're here at the Circuit Pour Car, and hopefully we can have a good weekend. And things actually were going very nicely for myself. I tried 2 different setups for France, and my second setup somehow gave me like well over a second in terms of performance. I don't know how, but it just did. So the first time around, we were 1/10 of a second shy of Rhys's lap time. We're already P5 and in front of Sam. So already I knew that the pace was very much there. And you can see again, we were finished 1/10 behind the man on pole, who I believe was Alonso at the time. So it shows that we've got some incredible pace. On my final flying lap here though, I really managed to hook everything up. All the mistakes that I made, everything just came straight to plan. And as we cross the start-finish line now, it is going to be pole position for the French Grand Prix. And that's our second pole position in a row now, after we got pole last time out in Austria. Here at France, we do get pole position. Very narrowly, though. By 2/1000ths of a second, we just got pole from Fernando Alonso in the Ferrari. So probably the closest qualifying I think I've ever had in the F1 journey, but just 2/1000ths of a second separate myself from Fernando Alonso. But we got pole. That's all that matters. A great qualifying session. My teammate Vettel, though, not really up to standards. McLaren, though, really not doing that well. Sam in 7th and Hamilton in 9th. The Mercedes cars doing better than what the performance showed in the race news. So hopefully they can have a good race. For us, though, it's going to be ultra soft, super soft, and then super soft. Let's see how we get on. Then we have got 4, now 5 red lights here for the start of the French Grand Prix. And it's lights out. Here we go here. And let's get this race well underway then. It's a good start, though, for Fernando Alonso in 2nd place on the grid. He automatically takes the lead heading up in towards the first corner. But we're going to go and dive it down the inside of Fernando Alonso. A little bit of contact made between myself and the Spaniard, but it's all good. And we get back on track then, so it is ourselves that lead ahead of Fernando Alonso. I believe that's Rhys in 3rd, so a good start for Rhys. One of the Renault cars there with a cracking start off the line, and he's now made himself up into 4th place. I think it's Ocon, but I can't quite tell. Sam, though, making some great progress there in the McLaren, but for us, though, this is where we struggle the most, in this middle sector, where the pace is just too much for the Aston Martin engine in the back of this Red Bull. Now, as we power down the straight, Fernando Alonso has a little look, and we're going to have to dive it towards the inside line, heavily on the defensive side of things here, just to cover my lines. Eventually, I realise that it's enough, and it's Ricciardo there that is up into 4th place, as we now just defend against Fernando Alonso and cover him off in probably the most dangerous part of the circuit, and Alonso can easily come back at us now in towards this next straight. And you can see there's Sam with a great start as well, up into 5th place. Leclerc having a bad start, dropping backwards as we go side by side with Fernando Alonso, but we hold him off. Rhys there, very much interested in behind, but we managed to maintain the lead of the French Grand Prix. Now we can see if we can try and settle ourselves in and try and pull away in this race and hopefully have a nice, easy proceeding. But this is the F1 journey. It's not a career mode, so it's not going to be that simple, especially when our power unit sucks. Meanwhile, though, let's have a look at the grid order and see what's going on. A good start it was from Sam. Doesn't quite start to turn out that well, unfortunately, as I have hiccups midway through this. He gets overtaken by George Russell, and then Leclerc is on a fight back as Rhys there is going to overtake Alonso for 2nd place in this race. As Leclerc passes Ricciardo, Rhys makes it up into 2nd in the French Grand Prix and puts a bit of a downer on Ferrari's strong pace this weekend and knocks that one clean. Alonso, though, is going to come back at Rhys, and meanwhile, you can see us just up ahead, starting to eke away from these lot now. So as these guys slowly but surely start continuing to fight, we are now starting to build a little bit of an advantage here, and it's just keeping me in the comfort window whereby they just don't have enough in this straight line to just rinse past me as Rhys there locks up and Alonso takes the position. So too does Charles Leclerc in the other Ferrari. So now Ferrari back up into 2nd and in 3rd. In fact, Leclerc has made a great recovery in this Grand Prix. He might even have a look at Fernando Alonso here. He is going to have a look at Fernando Alonso as they fly through now the middle sector. There I go. Leclerc does it. He gets past Fernando Alonso. The 2 Mercedes cars in behind, and now once again a lap later here we've now got Charles Leclerc under pressure from Fernando Alonso in towards the chicane, as I believe Rhys looks like he's already made an early pit stop in this race as Alonso too far back to make an attack here. As we have a little scroll through the order here as Hamilton now has a little look at Devon Butler. Doesn't work out for him. My teammate Vettel is onto the back of Rosberg, and the Ford car there of Pierre Gasly locks up though, but surprisingly gets past Valtteri Bottas, which I didn't expect to happen. On to lap 5 of the Grand Prix though, and for us, we're coming in for our first stop of 2 in this race. And the first 5 laps of proceedings, apart from defending against Fernando Alonso on the first lap, have been fairly calm actually, and we've been having a very nice ride. Now we're going to come in and get off these tyres. However, I do believe that we're going to get held in the pits, unfortunately, because there are other cars coming past. But luckily, it doesn't mean that we get held up by too much that the Ferrari passes me of Alonso. So we stay in the net race lead, but as you can see, we need to just try and press onwards now. We've lost a bit of time to Fernando Alonso. He's closed the gap, luckily, because obviously we were held in the pits, but it shouldn't be too much of a drama. Hopefully we can try and clear some of the back markers that there tends to be that on the alternate strategy and get on with it. But of course, we really need to press on with it as Ocon sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Meanwhile, we've got Lando Norris now in front of us in the Williams car. Really just a poor overall package, but now we need to try and see if we can sneak our way past the Lando Norris. I didn't want to wait any longer. I didn't want to wait to the straight. I knew I could have, but Alonso is closing up on me, and I'd rather have got the move done early and give Lando Norris a little bit of DRS so he can try and just stay in front of Alonso if that Williams car has got anything to show in a straight line. But already I'm probably a second clear by now, so that just shows you how I just did not want to stay behind Lando Norris for any longer than I really had to. And Fernando Alonso is now going to breeze by because, of course, well, Norris sucks in a straight line. No, not Norris, I'm in the Williams car. Charles Leclerc, meanwhile, is also going to fly by. So both Ferraris then are really starting to hunt me down in a 2-on-1 attack here as we pass Nico Hulkenberg in the Jaguar in a very unorthodox place to do it. But I'm really just trying to take as many measures here. I do not want to be held up by these back markers so much that it costs me DRS on them. As you can see now, we go through in towards the first corner. Alonso passes Hulkenberg. He has got DRS. Hulkenberg did also have DRS on myself. So critically, Alonso is in the window to try and mount an attack here, as Leclerc now needs to find his way past Nico Hulkenberg in the Jaguar and see if he can try and press past him and get on with this Grand Prix, as we now ride back on board with Charles Leclerc flying through here now. You can see there's a big queue of cars behind Lando Norris in there, and that's just going to cost all those drivers time, as we're now catching up to the Ford car of, I believe it's Carlos Sainz, and now we're going to try and press on. It is Carlos Sainz, cool. So Sainz now is under the DRS threat. We're now going to press on with the DRS, see if we can try and get past Carlos Sainz as quick as we possibly can, down the inside of Carlos Sainz. Lovely little overtake there. Job done. Carlos Sainz out of the way, and Alonso has not got past him. Meanwhile, a bit of a lock-up there from Lando Norris then in the Williams. Rhys goes around the outside, and also George Russell trying to get in on the act a little bit and maintain the position there, as we're just not actually that far ahead from this entire scrap here. As we fly on through now, Rhys goes through, Russell goes through, and also Ricciardo is going to go through on the outside there. But was someone slowed down slightly? That was one of the Mercedes cars, was it? Oh, it's Rhys. Look, Rhys has slowed down. I didn't even notice that. Rhys has slowed down. Yeah, he's gone off. So Rhys is out of the French Grand Prix, and the miserable season that Rhys has really had has just come back once again to bite him here. So Rhys no longer in this French Grand Prix. That is a massive, massive shame for Mercedes. And now it's up to George Russell to try and bring home the glory for Mercedes if they can. Because, of course, at the moment, I'm out front and the two Ferraris are comfortably in second and third. And they're still, as you can see, just breathing down my neck. This race is all about composure for me right now. Making sure that we make as little mistakes as possible. We are as consistent as possible. Making sure that we're not messing up in any of the corners. Just keeping it completely faultless. Lap 10 of the Grand Prix. We're onto the back of Lucas Weber, but Alonso now is right on the back of us here. So now we're under some extreme pressure, and we have to pass Weber as quick as possible and stop Alonso from getting past Weber until the next DRS straight. And that's the plan, as we now go through in towards this middle sector. Blodge it on through. Blodge it? That's a great word. Fly it on through. And now as we pass our way through, you can see that we drop it down into fourth and through in towards the final sector. Alonso has some extra work to do. So that DRS threat has been covered. Don't need to panic about that. Alonso's still, though, right behind me and just following me every step of the way in this race, as we're now onto the back of Gasly and also Butler. And I saw that Gasly had DRS on Butler, so I knew there was no point in me fighting or going into max engine powers, because they were just going to fight each other, and that's exactly what they're doing now. They're just completely screwing each other over. We're now going 3 abreast here, down towards the chicane. Alonso is now right behind us here. Got to do this move now. Going in towards the chicane, going to shove them wide, compromise both of them, double overtake done. Alonso now has to pass the pair of them. Now we really need to try and press away. Obviously, they're going to be in DRS of me, or one of them, probably the Audi. In fact, they're going to all be in DRS of me here. So, this is now going to be a case of how much longer can I just hold on versus Alonso and also the other Ferrari, Charles Leclerc. In fact, Devon Butler, oh no, it's Bottas, sorry. Bottas doesn't have DRS on me in the other Audi, so that's critical, and he actually goes to cover off Alonso slightly. Lock up there from Bottas, and I think Alonso is going to take full advantage of that, and he does so. So Alonso with the double overtake this time. Easier for him, it was on the straight. For me, I had to go through the whole first sector and do it off. Leclerc now gets through past Valtteri Bottas, and he is back up into third place in this race. Meanwhile, oh, there's a big lockup for Charles Leclerc. That's not what he wanted to have in this Grand Prix. As Bottas now, I get confused between the two, gets past him straight away, and now here comes Pierre Gasly coming past Charles Leclerc all of a sudden. I think Charles Leclerc's got a car problem here, because he should be going this slowly. Now the Jaguar is right on the back of him, yeah, so Charles Leclerc now has a critical problem in this Grand Prix, as we now look at Sam having a look at, oh, it's Daniel Ricciardo. What a shock. These two have been fighting so much this series so far, and Sam makes his way comfortably past the runner there of Daniel Ricciardo, and he can move on his way. As for the Porsche cars, well, they like to fight each other a lot, and they go at it again. Verline, though, with a big lockup in towards the chicane, but it's going to be okay for him. He makes his way past Nico Rosberg. Rosberg, though, will fight this one back as they now go onto the straight here, the second of the part of the Mistral straight, and I think Rosberg has just got enough. Yes, he does. He stays in front, and that's Nico Rosberg's position. Safe and sound. No one needs to panic. Back on board with us, though, lap 16 of the Grand Prix. We're coming in for our second pit stop, and once again, Fernando Alonso has just eked himself into DRS range, and now we're under pressure from the Ferrari behind as we now have a look here with the straight and the replay cameras here. Fernando Alonso with that straight line speed and the DRS and the slipstream probably got the engine modes turned up, goes for a look at us in towards the chicane. I thought I'd be alright in the chicane, but clearly not. But we managed to defend the position against Alonso. Now we've got to wait for the reverse switch attack here on this straight, and Alonso once again getting close to the back of the car now as we move over towards the inside line. But Alonso clearly has turned the engine modes down on this straight. He obviously went for it all on the Mistral straight, hasn't worked out, and he turned them down because all I was running was rich and high, and he manages to not even close up on me. So he was definitely running much lower engine modes as Charles Leclerc is back in third place. He's back in contention in third place, but he's a long way down now compared to myself. So it is now pretty much a straight fight between myself and Fernando Alonso for the race victory at the French Grand Prix, unless something else gets in the way, safety car for an example, or anything like that, as we're just struggling a little bit now, just trying to feel the pressure of the Spaniard right behind us. Simultaneously now, we both come in for our second stop onto super soft tyres. So here we go then. It's a battle of the mechanics. Who's got the better speed of putting tyres on? We do, because we get out in front, and a little bit of a gap now formed between myself and Alonso. So it's not as close as when we both came into the pits. So good job then from the Red Bull pit crew, very, very comfortably bringing me back out into this race in front of Alonso, and away we go. Perfect. I love that. Now, we can get on with our race. Rosberg is up ahead. We've got a couple of cars that are on the one-stop strategy that we need to overtake. So that's Nico Rosberg, Pascal Wehrlein, and also one of the Audi cars, I believe, of either Butler or Bottas. I think it's Devon Butler, because we overtook Bottas ages ago. So let's have a look. But meanwhile, speaking of these two, they really do love to fight the Porsche cars, and I thought I'd just put in a little bit of a fight with them. Here comes Rosberg. He's going to go towards the outside line here on his teammate Pascal Wehrlein, and he makes it through. So lovely stuff there from Nico. Job done from him. And now we're right onto the back of the two Porsche cars here. Wehrlein and Rosberg with myself and Alonso tucked in right behind. And for us, we really need to get past as we're getting held up horribly here, as Wehrlein now just sort of opens the door a bit and says, okay, you can go now, and lets us through. So that's exactly what we do. Get a bit wide though on the exit. It's actually Wehrlein that's got the best chance of re-overtaking us now as we go onto the straight. I'm now using all the engine modes possible, sticking in that DRS and slipstream of Nico Rosberg, and that's about going to give me enough to stay in front of Pascal Wehrlein, crucially in front of Fernando Alonso as well. Speaking of Nico Rosberg, need to find a way past him. Where am I going to do that? Don't have a clue yet, but we're now going to try and see if we can find a way past Nico as we now go through towards the next part of the race circuit. And thinking about unorthodox overtakes, very much outbroke Nico Rosberg there. Seeing that, I just decided to carry the speed through the corner, and we just tuck it down the inside of Rosberg. Not a place that you'd overtake through there, but we carried so much speed under braking that I thought I might as well just see if I can carry it on all the way. Up for us though, next is Devon Butler now in the Audi car. We did just set the fastest lap of the race so far on this lap, last lap, sorry. We did go purple, as you can see on the mini-map there below, as now we had a bit of a screen freeze there, which compromises a bit on Devon Butler, but I don't think he's running high engine modes, so we're able with DRS to just go for the attack here on Devon in towards the chicane now. A little bit deep on the brakes, but it just confirms the overtake for us. Alonso 2 seconds back now, and we can relax a little bit. We've cleared off the back markers from the traffic. Now we've just got to wait and see what the pace is like between me and Alonso in the final stint, because Alonso, remember, did close the gap on us at the end of the stint. And speaking of closing up that gap, lap 24 of this Grand Prix, just 3 more to go, or 4 more to go now in this race, and Alonso is half a second back, so he has regained composure in this Grand Prix, and he's closed us back down again. So for the final few laps, this is going to be a straight fight now between myself and Fernando Alonso to see who can win this Grand Prix. And oh my Christ, did that Ferrari just breeze past me in a straight line there. Alonso takes the lead off the French Grand Prix, and that is pretty much a real kick in the teeth, because we've been leading almost from start to finish in this race, and Alonso just absolutely flies past us. But now, this is where we talked earlier in the race, composure. We stuck with Fernando Alonso through the entirety of the lap, made sure that we made literally no mistakes, pushed as hard as we could. Alonso was also pushing as hard as he could, and made it very difficult for me to stay within reach of Fernando, but we're going to do just that now. And here we go then. The DRS is going to be in our favour this time. I'm going to use every ounce of engine mode possible to pass this Ferrari. So let's see if we can try and do it then, as we now go onto the straight here versus Alonso. Towing towards the outside line this time. We're now going to make the move and swoop it around the outside of Fernando Alonso. Get the overtake redone and back up into the lead of the French Grand Prix. But Alonso's not going to be done yet. He got a fabulous exit off the chicane. In fact, he's going to go for it straight away in towards the high-speed right-hander. This will be unorthodox from Fernando Alonso, taking a note out of my book. And he does it quite comfortably. And look at the gap that he's got then. So Alonso just flew past us once again. Lap 26 to 27. We really do desperately want to win this French Grand Prix and not lose out to Fernando Alonso for a second race in a row. We lost out in the Austrian Grand Prix due to a strategical error by myself, pretty much. Now we're under pressure of losing this race from Fernando Alonso because we just lost it. And you can see I literally have the smallest amount of ERS available. I have the smallest amount of fuel available as well. I literally have nothing left, and I'm trying everything now to pass these drivers. Now it's up to me to just use everything I've got to pass Alonso, and now I know that when I overtook Nico Rosberg, can I do it again on Fernando Alonso? Let's have a look then as we go in towards the chicane here. Outbroke ourselves a little bit better than Alonso. Carry the speed up the inside line, barge the car through, then pass Fernando Alonso and overtake him to go back into the race lead once again. Now we need to save as much fuel in the ERS as we possibly can to try and hold off Alonso for one more lap. And obviously he's going to try everything he can to try and nick this victory from myself as we now go through in towards the sector last corner. Now the final corner, and we're going to go through and get on with this final lap. Here we go then. So we're going to up the ERS ante now. Alonso did not get a good exit off the last corner, and we might just be safe here from a threat of attack from Alonso. He still has DRS, but I'm comfortable in the race lead. So I'm going to drop everything back down into neutral format, and we go again then. So now as we fly through in towards the first sector, Alonso will close the gap on me here, but crucially, I'm not using any fuel. I'm not using ERS. I'm saving it all for the straight. That's all I care about, is making sure I've got maximum power for this straight, and hoping that Alonso doesn't quite have as much maximum power, but you never know with that Ferrari. As we now go onto the straight here, let's unleash everything then. Medium, overtake mode enabled, not even bothering with hot lap. Now we're going to cover the inside line, and this is where we just have to hope and pray that the Ferrari does not pass us. He's getting closer, gets closer, goes towards the outside line, side by side now, between myself and the Ferrari. Alonso edged ahead, but we break a little bit later, and Fernando Alonso hold off the position versus the Ferrari. But I'm more than aware that Alonso does get that repetitive switchback on this straight, but he doesn't quite get close enough on this run. Now we look like we're about to cover ourselves from Fernando Alonso as we go through the right-hander. He can maybe have a look into this second part of this complex of corners, but we're just about okay, and I might even just defend a little bit early into the corner, and we're just keeping the composure, keeping calm, dropping all the fuel modes down, because I'm just going to blast it across the line and hope that Fernando Alonso doesn't DRS me across the line. That's my other worry now. There's still one more opportunity for Alonso to get this done, and he's got the power to do it. Last corner now, or sector last corner should we say, cover the inside line, just literally slowing the pace down now, drop it into second gear, make sure that we don't lock up, put all the car into rich and hot lap mode, and sprint it to the line, to the checkered flag, to come across to win the French Grand Prix by literally tenths of a second. It was super close between myself and Fernando Alonso, and that is a cracking Grand Prix. We have a look at the race result then, and as you can see, we managed to win the French Grand Prix by 1/10 of a second over Fernando Alonso. It was such a close race, but luckily we just about came out on top, and that's all that matters. Fernando Alonso obviously finishes in second. Devon Butler gets his first podium in Formula 1 then for Audi, finishing in P3. So the one-stop strategy really did actually work out very, very well for a lot of drivers. Butler getting third place. Rosberg took fourth in the Porsche, ahead of George Russell, only just though. They were even closer than me and Alonso were. They were 5/100ths of a second separated across the line. Pascal Wehrlein was also only 7/10ths back, so they were really having a great scrap there. So Russell just misses out on overtaking Nico Rosberg. Valtteri Bottas in the other Audi car does manage to come home in P7, so it's a great day for Porsche and Audi, a bad day for Renault in that little midfield trio fight, as Renault miss out on scoring points at their home race. Sam, meanwhile, in the McLaren, only finishing in P8, really was not a good weekend for McLaren. Charles Leclerc in P9 for the Ferrari, so obviously had some car problems and just had to trundle home in P9. Lewis Hamilton then in P10, once again confirming that McLaren really just did not have the race pace or the pace at all this weekend, and obviously they were meant to have major upgrades for this French Grand Prix, and well, they didn't arrive, so it's about when do they arrive for them, because they're going to want to fight back after what's been, quite frankly, a terrible, terrible race for them. In terms then of the Drivers' Championship, we are now 15 points clear of Charles Leclerc after taking the race win, and Charles Leclerc only scoring 2 points. Sam, meanwhile, is still third in the championship. He's on 82 points now, just 8 points shy of Charles Leclerc, and slowly but surely starting to reel in the Ferrari and become my new closest challenger in the championship. Fernando Alonso, who's been on a great run of form so far with a race victory and a second place and 2 fastest laps, is now fourth in the championship on 66 points. George Russell moves ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. He's on 63 points. Ricciardo on 58. Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche, again with a great result for him, catapults himself up to 51 points. Rhys's miserable season carries on. He's on 42 points and drops to 8th in the championship. Bottas in the Audi moves up to 9th place now in the World Drivers' Championship. He's on 38 points. And then Sebastian Vettel, my teammate, is in 10th place on 26 points. And I just noticed a little spelling error, which is fine. I'll adjust that for the next episode. And then we can see then in the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari once again continue to lead the Constructors' Championship, although I believe that the Constructors' Championship has come down a little bit. The gap now is 25 points between myself, Red Bull, and Ferrari at the top. Mercedes are on 105 points. They're on 3rd in the championship. McLaren are on 93 points now and starting to close up on Mercedes. Porsche have overtaken Renault for 5th in the championship. They're on 75 points. Renault down to 67 after not scoring. And Audi are right behind them on 65 points. And Jaguar have that crucial extra point. And last but certainly not least, we're going to go into the post-race notebook and see what the teams and drivers had to say. First things first, Tom is obviously extremely happy to earn payback for last week's defeat to Fernando Alonso. Of course, Tom and Alonso battled against each other in Austria, and it was the Ferrari driver that came out on top after doing an alternate strategy. This time around, it was a straight fight, fair fight, and Tom managed to come out on top. Speaking of that fair fight, Fernando Alonso has praised Tom's race combat skills after that Grand Prix. Alonso said this time around it was literally man versus man, and Tom came out on top and he deserved to do so. It was clear that the Ferrari was faster in a straight line, but Tom gave absolutely everything and he managed to beat me fair and square today, and he hopes that we can have more battles in the future. Meanwhile, Sam is still optimistic that he can win the World Drivers' Championship despite yet another setback in Formula 1. Of course, Sam is 23 points behind in the championship, if my maths is correct, and obviously with yet Tom taking another victory, Sam falling down into P8, it's looking less likely that he's going to be in the championship hunt. However, he still thinks he can do, and we'll find that out next time around when we head to Monte Carlo for the Monaco Grand Prix as it returns with the F1 journey. Thank you very much for watching, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Take care all, peace.